everyone, Fertility Journals here. If you're new, thank you so much for watching. I decided to start this YouTube channel as a way to give back to this community. I personally underwent 12 cycles of IVF, and when I was undergoing my journey, I really relied in this space to be able to gain motivation, hope, and inspiration. And I hope that that will be the same for you. If you're stopping by and maybe you are interested in the topic, or you know somebody going through infertility, or you're looking to do research just from a lived experience, then this is the place to be. Today, I'm going to talk about an interesting question that I have received a couple of times, which is the answer to the question, how do you use your own eggs for IVF success? If you are interested in my experience, stay tuned. So I'll first start off with my diagnosis. My diagnosis was diminished ovarian reserve. I was perimenopausal, and I had an AMH of 0.01, and I had an FSH of 24. I also was a poor responder. So when I underwent my conventional IVF cycle, unfortunately, only one follicle matured and was reverted to an IUI. So it was a complete fail for me. Doctors were reluctant to do IVF. And so it was a little bit of a shocker because, like many people who did not quite understand how age-related infertility worked, it was really a shock because you think IVF is going to fix it. And then when the doctor actually tells you that it's not even a possibility, it really was challenging. But we were able to go home, sit in the news, and get into research. And so I'm going to walk you through some steps on how we were able to use our own eggs during IVF. So the first step, if you would like to use your own eggs and you are either a poor responder, regardless of your age, or you have diminished ovarian reserve, regardless of your age, please know there's nothing wrong with you. I know those labels can be daunting. All that means is that you don't have that many eggs. So it does make sense that the doctors say IVF may not be an option, right? Because for many doctors, when they say IVF, they mean conventional IVF, the standard IVF that's used all over the country. And that is true. Putting $5,000 worth of drugs in your body and you only have a few eggs isn't going to work. It's counterproductive. In fact, it's going to fry them. And so rest assured, understand it's coming from the right place, even though you just heard that from the doctor, right? So what do you do next? The good news is that there are alternate types of IVF that you could pursue. And the ones that we were so excited to find, my husband and I, was mini IVF and natural cycle IVF. Mini IVF is when they use reduced medications. And what that did for us was that it enabled my eggs to respond favorably because I had few eggs, and I think I was kind of just picky. My body's kind of picky. That's how we are, poor responders, and folks with, we got a few eggs. We got to, coax them easily. And so the medication was minimal, and I was able to mature more eggs and give myself a chance at IVF. And a natural cycle IVF is probably when you only have one follicle, really. And it's where you may not even need to take medication, right? Because you do want to give that egg a chance. But hopefully that is helpful. So that's the first step in using your own eggs. If the other IVF does not work conventional, is consider a doctor who specializes in natural cycle or natural mini IVF. Now, the second tip to use your own eggs for IVF is this. Make sure whatever doctor you pick has data. Because the thing about data, it gets you excited, right? Because there's information about somebody else who had your similar diagnosis. No diagnosis can be exactly the same, but they can be similar. And so that's why it's exciting, because then that keeps you going, because this is a journey of hope and faith. That's how I went through my 12 cycles, because I knew then that I wasn't crazy because others had gone through even more. I know one person who was successful in my clinic who underwent 22 natural cycles. And so, I mean, it's there. I mean, this happens and was successful. And the one who I aspired to actually underwent 15, and she also has a bouncy baby boy. But this was all data from my clinic. And when you have data, it allows you to plan and it allows you to follow your own path. Now, for my clinic, which is the Life IVF Center, which specializes in women over 40, the data was that women for my age at the time, to get to a viable egg, was 1 out of every 6 cycles, 1 out of every 8 cycles. But always remember, it's not a guarantee. But all we needed really was just a chance, like I mentioned to you before, a chance to see. So that was the reality of women my age. And so get the data so that it can help you see what you need to do to give your own eggs a chance, if it is possible for you. The other tip that I have for you is create a budget. Now, what was great for us about mini IVF was that Dr. Yillian's clinic actually has the lowest cost for a mini IVF cycle. At the time, I think it was about $3,500, if I'm not mistaken, in 2020. And it was very cost effective because remember, we were planning for conventional IVF, and which at the time cost $25,000 a cycle, which makes sense because people who can do conventional IVF, you have a lot of eggs and you are able to build your entire family, particularly if you do embryo freezing, right, from just that one cycle. And so because we already had that budgeted in our minds, now it was time to use what was remaining, because we had also used about $5,000 of the money towards drugs. You live and learn. We didn't know at the time about this other type of IVF. I wish I did, but I didn't. And so we used the difference to be able to plan the IVF cycles we were going to have. And then we looked into our savings, we looked into our circumstances to be able to see how much we could save, because we knew right away, based on the data, that one cycle was not going to work for us, 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 was not going to work for us, which actually ended up being a reality. But we were excited because we had the data and we knew that we could give our own eggs a chance. So look into your budget, plan ahead of time, and then work accordingly. The other tip that I have for you is make sure you pick a doctor that you can connect with. I mention often in my channel that the doctors I found in my research, I'm so happy to share those doctors with you. There are 3 main doctors. My own doctor, Frank Yillian of the Life IVF Center in Irvine, California. We did outside monitoring, and all these doctors offer outside monitoring because, as you can imagine, for women with diminished ovarian reserve and who are poor responders, there's not a lot of doctors that specialize in our care. And so they were so gracious that their clinics allow you to stay in your own state and monitor, send the results, and then just travel there for the retrieval. So typically, so that's the first doctor. The second doctor I was able to find was Dr. John Zhang. He's in New York City, New Hope Fertility Center. They also do minimal stimulation and natural cycle IVF, to the best of my understanding. They offer those 2 also. And there is Sherman Silber, Dr. Sherman Silber in St. Louis, Missouri, of the St. Louis Infertility Center. He also offers minimal stimulation IVF. Actually, there's a 4th doctor, Dr. Jeffrey Keenan of the Southeast Fertility Center in Tennessee. He does offer minimal stimulation IVF as well. And I believe Dr. Mark Trullis in Florida, he helped a woman who was, I think she was 46, and she gave birth at 47. So she gave birth with her own eggs, her own 46-year-old eggs at his clinic. Obviously, that is a rare event, but he does minimal stimulation IVF. I was able to research the protocol he gave that woman, and the protocol is minimal stimulation as well. All right, so now you know what IVF type you want to use, from natural or minimal, depending on your situation. You have doctors, in case you're looking for them, that are really good at this, that I've provided you. You have the data from any doctor you work with, meaning somebody who's been successful. What have they done? Very important. Do not go to a doctor where you cannot get the data. And not even data, if you can hear that patient's experience, if you can call that patient to find out how it was like for them. Now, my clinic actually has YouTube videos. The lady is called Lock-In, Life IVF Center, the video on embryo rate. She's featured on there, so I was actually able to see her story, and I would play it every day just to gain the motivation. And then you need to budget, because if you have a poor responder, diminished ovarian reserve, particularly if you have age-related infertility, it's going to take a while. But if you are younger, probably not. A couple of cycles, the traditional 2 or 3, I think is sufficient for you. So basically, those are the anchors for using IVF with your own eggs. Now, the other tip I have for you is you're going to need motivation, because people are going to think you're crazy. They are, because they just don't know. And it's a lonely journey, because you're going through these cycles and people feel sorry for you. Even your sonographer may feel sorry for you because they kind of are seeing all these patients with all these eggs, and then you come in, you only have your 1 or 2, and they're struggling to find it. I tell you, it is a struggle. IVF is a struggle. Girl, this journey, hang in there. But you're going to need motivation. So if you need motivation, I have documented all my 12 IVF cycles in the playlist, and I've attached it in the information box. Watch every single cycle. So for every cycle you do, watch my video of that cycle number. Let's cry together. Let's more, because that's what it was like. I warn you that my video playlist is raw and real, but maybe that's what you need, because that's, I tried my best. I'm not a professional. I wasn't looking really cute with lipstick like the way I'm looking now with a nice wig and everything. I wasn't looking like that, but it is real. So if you need the motivation, please refer to my playlist. And also remember, on YouTube as well, you will find others who are willing to share their journey also. Motivation is important, because this is a journey of hope and faith. And it is a lonely journey. So you're going to need all the motivation you can get. And the final tip I have for you as I wrap things up in this video about using IVF with your own eggs: it is okay for you to decide your pathway to baby. In fact, if you can, I know it's difficult because I've been there, decide the pathway early, because mostly for goals and financial reasons. So for my husband and I, my husband sat down with me and said, babe, we probably need to sit down together and decide the pathways. What is our path to baby? Because we are going to bring a take-home baby. What are you most comfortable with? So obviously the first was genetic, my own eggs. And then the second was, egg donation. And then it was embryo donation, if for some reason that didn't work for us. And then after that was when we were going to consider either fostering, adoption, and then we decided on surrogacy. If I was not able to carry for any reason, we were going to do the type of surrogacy was gestational, meaning the surrogate was going to carry our embryo, my egg and my husband's little guys, as opposed to traditional, which is the surrogate using her eggs, if that makes sense. So that was our pathway that we had, and I can't tell you how useful it is, because you're doing it because you want to bring home a take-home baby and you don't know what will work. But the funny thing is, as you do the pathways, you kind of walk away feeling you've done everything that you can before you move on to the next step. And I know that some of you are not there, but I promise you, that's why you want to use your own eggs first, because you try, and then you get to a point where you are ready for the next pathway if the first one does not work out for you. So it is important to have that ready ahead of time. So if you are willing and you are thinking about bringing a take-home baby, then please develop the pathway. And if you're not, please know that that's okay. I mentioned in my YouTube channel all the time about Jessica Hepburn. Jessica Hepburn is amazing. Her pathway to baby was just her own egg. She did 12 cycles of IVF, underwent multiple miscarriages and an ectopic pregnancy, and she has decided to live a child-free life, and she has found happiness with this decision. And so there are those of us out there, fertility warriors, who undergo these experiences, and so feel okay with your decision, whatever your decision may be. And so folks, hopefully this information was helpful on how you can use your own eggs as you are looking into IVF, particularly if you have age-related infertility, or if you do not have age-related infertility, you're young and are just a poor responder, or have diminished ovarian reserve, because that can happen even for young women in their 30s and late 20s. Thank you so much for watching. Until my next video, bye.